Hello, I'm Mike Buchanan, leader of the British political party Justice for Men and Boys. I'm delighted to be here with Paul Elam the day after, or a few days after, ICMI has ended, and I thank him for his agreement to put this video on his wonderful YouTube channel. So the conference was a monumental success. I was going to lose money on it, however, but thanks to donations from some very generous people, including some Americans and Canadians. I've now recovered that money, and got to tell you guys, it's not going to be £20 next year. That is for sure. I don't know what it'll be, but £20 for a 6-day, 24 hours a day conference is insane. I don't know what I was thinking. And okay, so just before we go on to my list of things, then, Paul, I think a lot of people here will be interested to hear some very good news you have.
Yeah, happy to report it. It's something I haven't talked much about, if at all, on my channel. I've addressed this in other places. My partner of 20 years, Stacy, was diagnosed 2 years ago with endometrial cancer, and she was given a standard treatment, but it recurred and metastasized. She was in very deep trouble, very sick for a long time. Went through chemotherapy, which nearly killed her itself. It was worse than the cancer. But ultimately, she qualified for an immunotherapy drug called Keytruda. And we did the genetic testing on her, and it turned out she happened to be in this very small percentage of people who have very good genetic markers for getting treated with Keytruda. And she has been on that for several months. And the last scan that we had on her, the cancer was gone. And I'm going to say this qualified. I mean, it's a wonderful moment, but you have to take it into context. When you have metastatic cancer, gone is a relative word. But what we do know is that her tumors have shrunk and disappeared. They are no more. So we're ecstatic about that. I mean, it's the best news possible. I couldn't be happier about it. We were very lucky. Very lucky.
I understand, Paul, even people with the right genetic markers, it's still a long shot. So
still, most of them, it does not work the way it did for her.
Right.
There's a tiny, tiny fraction of people that get this kind of result. And, you know, she was a very sick woman. She had an outlook of 17% probability for survival.
Wow.
And which is nearly zero when you really get down to the numbers of it. It's very bad. And of course, we're living with the reality that the cancer may come back. I mean, that's always a possibility. But right now, she's tumor-free and healing. And the Keytruda is not nearly as hard on her as the chemotherapy was. And we're doing quite well. So thank you for asking. I'm happy to share that with my audience.
That's great, Paul. No, I met her in Colorado. We had that retreat. An awful lot of drug taking, I seem to recall. but we'll, you know,
Colorado.
What happens in Colorado stays in Colorado. What can I say?
Absolutely. What happens in Colorado, you forget. You don't remember what happened.
That's true. That was very memorable. Paul, I'm wearing, well, because it's the conference season, and you obviously ran the first ICMI near Detroit in 2014. I'm wearing this T-shirt in your honor.
I know that shirt well. Yes, turn around so everybody can see it, Mike.
I don't know. Can you see that?
You got to move to your right.
Ah, okay.
There we go. International Conference on Men's Issues.
Yeah. Now that was an awesome conference. Absolutely awesome.
It was amazing.
But they've just got better ever since. And so we've just had the 70 speaker 6-day conference, 70 interviews and presentations, 70 live Q&As, and we're all walking around in a daze. The feedback was extraordinary. The level of interactivity and people putting questions to the to the speakers. It's difficult to think how it could have been better, to be quite honest.
Congrats on that, and to all of you who worked on that conference. It was a resounding success, and through the groups at XY Crew, a lot of those guys attended the conference. The feedback I got was glowing across the board. Everybody was really happy with how well it went.
And we have ideas for next year, including making it multilingual and a few other things, but that's all in the part. Next year, will almost certainly be the 18th to the 20th of November. So that's a Friday to Sunday with International Men's Day in the middle. So that falls rather nicely. I'd just like to say a Merry Christmas to all of our supporters and our donors in particular.
Absolutely.
Without those people, and there are 1 or 2 women among them, and it is 1 or 2, we wouldn't be around today. And we have plenty of members who are not British. People often assume you have to be British, of the same nationality as a party, but you don't. Let me just be a few seconds picking through this, Paul. I actually have a blog piece with the gist of what I'm about to say on the Justice for Men and Boys website, which is j4mb.org.uk. I'll put a link in the low bar to that, and there's lots of links there. If I had to pick out one standout video from the conference, it would be Hannah Gal's documentary. Now she's an Israeli documentary maker, an award-winning one, lovely woman, and it's called "Progressivism is Destroying Men, Families, Society, and Civilization." And its world premiere was at the conference, so that was super special. She originally wanted to make it under 30 minutes for film festivals, but she said it ended up at 53. So there's just so much damn good stuff on there. I actually predict it'll go on to have more success than the Red Pill, which was 2015, I think, wasn't it? So that goes back a bit. So it's a fantastic piece of work. I'm just in awe of the woman. Now, the interviews and presentations are all on the platform, which is run by a company called Hoover, WHOVA, company down in San Diego. But the live Q&As are all going on the Justice for Men and Boys website, and will be free to watch there, and mirrored on yours, Paul. I think it's about 45 or so now, and we'll have all 70 up within a couple of weeks. There's only one Q&A that we're holding back on the conference platform and not making available at this point, and that's Sargon of Akkad. We managed to secure him as a guest of honor with 24 hours to go, and it was a very interesting session. I think one of the greatest communicators in the world, actually. I mean, there's these people deserve their YouTube figures, and of course you deserve the fact that there's so many more. You have such a higher subscriber number than me, Paul, which is why I don't publicize mine on the website. But it's a few less than your 105,000, I believe, something like.
The 105,000 that I've maintained exactly for 2 years now, thanks to YouTube bottlenecking my new subscribers and unsubbing people. They have kept me right at the same level, making sure I should have had 200,000 by now.
Do you know, they really don't hide it, Paul, do they? Because I remember in the ICMI last year, when we were posting videos onto your channel, I noticed overnight it had gone up to 107,000 or 108,000, and then within hours it was back to 105. So they really expect us to believe you had 3,000 new subscribers who all decided to unsubscribe.
At the same time.
At the same time as well.
Exactly. I mean, it is remarkable, and it's remarkable that whatever I've done, I've managed to keep the same number of subscribers for 3 years. It is
it'd be fascinating to know what the real number is. Just to think about future ICMIs, I'm planning to host online ICMIs every year going forward, apart from when I host an in-person one. So 2023, there's not going to be one next year, but in 2023 there's going to be one in North America, run by Chris.
Might I interject there for next year? There will be, and we'll talk, maybe have a chance to talk a little more about this later. There will be a jamboree, a real world gathering, camping in cabins, as a first annual Mark Angelucci Memorial Gathering.
Oh, wow.
Here in Virginia, and I will be putting out information about that on my channel and of course at paulelam.com, and we're at XY Crew on Subscribestar. If anybody's interested joining our groups, we're planning on a big event for October of next year. Good.
I'm pleased there's something in person. So no, I'm very much looking forward to that. So the 2023 conference.
If your country still lets you travel.
Well, that's true. That's true. So 2023, there'll be a conference in Goa in India, run by Anil Kumar, and at some point later in the year, one run in North America by Chris Foti. I'm planning my next in-person event in 2014, and I'm currently leaning towards having it, and I don't think you know this, Paul, or maybe you do. I'm currently thinking of hosting it in Istanbul, the Turkish capital. And one of the reasons being that we can then call it the Istanbul Convention.
We need an Istanbul Convention.
Do you know, I laughed my ass off when I thought of that. And for anybody who doesn't know, because I find some North Americans don't know this, but the Istanbul Convention is a domestic violence treaty or something from those commie bastards in the EU. So it's just an appalling thing.
Oh, you mean the guys you kicked out of your country?
We did, and I'll come on to that shortly. And Robert Brockway plans to host an event in Australia in 2025. Now we had 3 Conservative MPs scheduled to speak at the conference. All 3 pulled out without explanation. But I mean, they were all backbench MPs, and frankly, I'm sure they were just told if they had any ministerial ambitions, they would not be speaking at the conference. And it's why Philip Davies, of course, he speaks because he has no such ambitions. So it's basically, again, I'll try not to just read it out, Paul, but it's in the blog piece. I've basically decided, it goes back to your point about Brexit, that it is not possible to engage with the political class, at least in the UK. So I'm basically I'm planning to do a Nigel Farage and get enough votes on a new platform to force the Conservatives into changing. It was only David Cameron was a very strong Remainer, but it was Farage that forced him to have to put a referendum in the manifesto, and the rest is history. The basic relaunching, we're relaunching probably March or April. We'll carry on campaigning about men's and boys issues, but we're now going to present it mainly as a pro-children, pro-family, and pro-life party. I think there's not many people that won't be attracted to that. And after 8.5 years of trying to get people to look through this lens of men's and boys issues. I mean, Paul, you told me, you've been telling me for years they won't do it, and eventually, I mean, I think I stick at things, but 8.5 years is enough for me. And I'm a really impatient guy. I can't believe I've done it this long, but it's time to have a new platform, and the Children and Families Party, which is what it will be, is going to be my vehicle for that. And of these 25 men's and boys issues to the side of me, some 17 or 18 of them can reasonably be presented as children and family issues. It's really quite astonishing. But the rest we'll carry on with. And I shall be up against a Labour MP who beat his Conservative rival as a runner-up by 145 votes last time. It would almost be impossible not to impact on the result, quite frankly. So I'm looking forward to that. 8% of the population of Bedford, the throbbing metropolis of Bedford, as I always call it, and nobody else does. 8% of the population are Muslims, so they carry out MGM at the same rates as Jews. So MGM, my position on MGM will not go down well, I predict. But the pro-life and pro-family things will go down very well in that community. I can never remember if I told you this, Paul, but we have in the course of a long conversation the other day with Professor Stephen Baskerville, an American professor of politics who now lives in Romania with his Romanian wife. He offered to stand for our party at the next general election.
Awesome.
And he lives very close to an airport in Romania, which has a 2-hour flight to Luton. Luton Airport. Luton Airport is 20 miles from me. So yeah, it's all, and he thinks the strategy is perfect. And he actually thinks, as I do, that the only strategy is the Nigel Farage strategy. If you're a minor party, I mean, Farage was never elected an MP, but he didn't need to be. Anyway, I wonder if we can come on to a subject that we were chatting about a bit earlier and decided, and actually, no, we'll end with that. I just want to say something about XY Crew, Paul. I'm just the biggest fan of XY Crew, or Regarding Men, as I keep calling them. I think it's just the most fantastic thing. It really is. It's and I know the Cybershed has saved lives, hasn't it?
Well, it's not just that. I mean, if I can blow our horn a little bit, I want to do that because I think people need to know. XY Crew, formerly Regarding Men, now XY Crew, which you can find on Subscribestar. We are doing men-only groups. One exception, Janice does one group a week, but all the rest of the groups are all male facilitators and attendees. And what we're seeing in there is absolutely incredible. Not just, I mean, we have a 24-hour cyber shed in which guys come in. Sometimes just recently, one guy came in the midst of quite a crisis, and the cyber shed was there for him to give support. But what I also want to say is what we see over and over in these groups is guys coming into the groups with knives in their back, you know, beat up from parental alienation, from family law problems and everything else, devastated lives. And the next thing you know, months down the road, they're looking at buying a house again. They're working out, they're getting new jobs, they're starting to travel again and get involved with other activities where they had been just morbidly depressed and beat up. There's a risk of sounding hyperbolic about this, but I really don't have the words to describe what's really happening there. Men building men, men supporting each other. It's a no shame environment. Talk about what you want to, tell the truth, which how many places do men have where they can sit there and openly speak the truth without risk? And I think there's something really remarkable about that kind of environment for these guys. So I'm very proud of what we're accomplishing there. Mike is facilitating groups. Janice Fiamingo is. I'm doing groups. We have another guy on. I mean, there's people doing groups there regularly. John Levy has joined us doing groups. It's a wonderful environment. Wonderful things are happening. It's the best thing I've ever seen in terms of a resource for, especially for red pill men who've been beat up by a blue pill world.
It's the best morale booster imaginable as far as I'm concerned, and you know, I think you adopted my crazy pricing model. At
well,
$5 a month. It should be more, but it's your call, Paul. Obviously.
Well, it's $5 a month, or you can join if you have the money. You can join at a higher level, and we have many guys who do that to support doing outreach and things like that. And guess what? If you don't have $5, write me an email. There's when you join, there is a area there where you can message us. If you want to join, you don't have the $5 a month, we don't care. Just let us know. We want you in.
No, I really take my hat off to you guys for that. Just like to mention a couple of the groups. Tom Caulfield, who's I always call an unsung hero of the men's rights movement, the video guy.
Yes,
the video guy behind every conference since 2016 in London. He was a professional photographer in a former life, and he's forgotten more about photography than I know. But it's a wonderfully absorbing hobby, and so he has a 90-minute meetings on Wednesday, 7 p.m. GMT. We are all. He's one of these born teachers, Tom, and very entertaining. So we learn a lot. We laugh our asses off. It is just it's the highlight of my week, pretty well. So I'd strongly recommend people join that. My own group starts at 2 p.m. on Sundays at GMT. Be great to have some more people. Today we had Americans, Canadians, Italians, Brits, Irish, you name it. So it's we even get the occasional Australian.
Well, we have to let those guys in.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, unfortunately. Just kidding, guys. We love you from down under.
But the time difference is crazy, guys. Try and do something about that.
Yeah.
And we also have join us every Sunday in my group, a guy called Roland Adeligan, which is not a name that many people will be familiar with, but he was better known for his work as the video maker Man, Woman, Myth, and before 2015. And I would say he's in contention with what I can only think of one or two other people in his league as an influencer of the men's rights movement, just breathtakingly. So it was he who first did a video titled something like "Feminism is a Female Supremacy Movement," and the quality, the video quality, the production values, given when he did it, when it's a lot tougher than today to put out a quality video, he's just a hero. He had a fall from a considerable height in 2015. And suffered severe brain injury. I think it's a near miracle that he survived, quite frankly. And in lots of countries in the world, they would have just left him to die. But so he joins us every Sunday. He has a working memory of maybe 10 minutes, which is an absolute tragedy for someone who had such a fine mind. But he always appreciates the support he's getting from people, and it's it's something that brightens up his week. And so I think that just leaves us with, in that blog piece, there's a link to an 80-second video about abortion, which I mean, how would you describe it? Do you think it's quite funny, Paul?
It's the only real funny thing I've ever seen in my life on a very awful, tragic subject. I mean, we can talk about that more, but it very humorously points out the absolutely ludicrous nature of the thinking and how people rationalize when it's okay to kill a child.
Yeah, it is. It is. Whether the woman is a very beautiful young American or Canadian. I can never tell Americans and Canadians apart, accent-wise.
She has pink hair. She's probably Canadian.
Oh, that's true. That's true. But it is just brilliant. It is just the funniest thing on YouTube, as far as I'm concerned, right now. Anyway,
I'll put a link below for you guys.
Yeah. There's a link in my blog piece, so that's all good. Paul, that brings us to the subject that we said we'd end with today, abortion. Just a couple of words. I mean, so we will be even more of a pro-life party than we are today. The World Health Organization reported that in 2020, 73+ million abortions took place. It's probably a damn sight more than that. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 100 million, quite frankly. And it's a genocide with no end. And I'd personally criminalize it, full stop. But I know you take a very interesting and nuanced alternative position on that, Paul. I wonder if you could just roll that by us.
Sure. I believe in damage control. I believe in some social issues are just not manageable with a criminal code. I don't think that criminalizing abortion will stop it from happening. But I do think that we need just to I think we can reduce abortions in the Western world probably by 90% or more by simply forcing people to deal with what they're doing. One, no federal funds for abortions, no welfare babies, none of that stuff. I mean, part of the problem, the reason that we have 73 million murders in a year, I mean, I can't wrap my head around that. But the reason we have that is because women have no accountability whatsoever. A woman gets pregnant, the state immediately launches its resources into action to support and pay for, through our money, the stuff they're taking from us.
And it's mainly men's money, of course.
Exactly, paying for whatever the woman wants. I say, if you want an abortion, there should be several things that happen. One, you have to pay for it. It has to come out of your pocket. Two, you must see the fetus or the developing baby on a monitor, hear its heartbeat, and sign a statement that you know you're killing your child. You make women pay.
And sorry, by monitor, Paul, do you mean like an ultra scan?
Yes.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
You have to see your baby, hear the heartbeat, and then say, yeah, kill it. I think women should have to go through that in order to get an abortion. And I think if we make them accountable for the action, I'm sorry, but killing a baby because you didn't know how to keep your legs together, I'm not buying it. So it should be a shaming experience. It should be an absolutely shaming experience to have an abortion. We should force women to face what they're doing. They are killing their child. It's not a clump of cells. It's not a mass with no identity. It's a human life.
It's a
And
very interesting point, that, Paul. Sorry to interrupt, but
that's all right.
just one of the thoughts in my head, because I'm sort of disinclined to go down the shaming route, and part of my thinking there, and it's something, by the way, but both abortion and fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. Fetal alcohol spectrum disorder is the #1 cause of avoidable disability in across the world. 1 in 6 British children are born with it. It's an absolute scandal. But I think another way of looking at the shaming issue, or the deterrent, is to say that, you know, people will look, pro-life people even will tend to say, you know, will only look at the victim, the unborn child. As far as I'm concerned, there's at least, well, there's quite a few more victims. There's the woman who, at least in the UK, is pretty well. If she says she wants an abortion, she's pretty. It's a straight highway to the abortion clinic. And then there's the father, of course, who has no say about the damn thing. And then there's relatives who'll hear about it later, one way or another. And it was always said 99% of abortions in the UK are carried out on the grounds of the woman's mental health. So, in other words, that there's a therapeutic value.
Yes, there's a good mental health value in killing your child.
Well, exactly. And I mean, women wouldn't. I mean, what does it say that feminists, I think, genuinely believe it's good for women's mental health? I mean,
oh yes.
What monsters? So, but the evidence is quite the opposite. And I quote in my conference video an American female professor who points to just a mountain of evidence that it has a negative effect. And how could it not have a negative effect? You know. So
I have talked to women, honestly. I have talked to women who had abortions in their late teens, early 20s, who are now in their 50s and 60s, and it still hurts them.
Yeah.
They still suffer damage.
I think the problem, though, there is the shaming that you can't make the child undead.
No.
So shaming, you know, would have the impact of, you know, because we want to stop them in future, don't we? And anyway, that's just
well, and this is why I hear what you're saying very clearly, but I think it actually supports my POV. The experience, killing your child, should not be a pleasant experience. I mean, it's not that I gratuitously would like to shame women.
No, I get that.
But getting an abortion should be a decision that you do with full consciousness. I also think that you should not be allowed to get an abortion unless you sit down with an adoption counselor and hear them out on why it's possible not to kill your child or have to raise it. Because let's face it, you know, it's one thing if there's a medical reason for an abortion. If it's the pregnancy is going to, women get abortions because they don't want to be mothers. That's why they get the abortion.
I mean, the medical grounds is like 1% of the total, if that.
Exactly. It's a parenting decision, which you would think, since it is a parenting decision, that men should be included. But of course, we're not in that world. It's not going to happen. But I do think women should be forced to sit down with an adoption counselor and hear somebody say, you don't have to kill your baby.
Yeah.
We'll take it through and we'll get it to a family. It can live. Your baby can have its life. You don't have to murder it. And I do think that would cut abortions quite a bit. I think if you put the onus on women, the responsibility for all aspects of it, financial, emotional, and otherwise, you will see abortion rates drop precipitously.
I think you could well be onto something there, Paul. When I was campaigning outside the Conservative Party conference in Manchester about a month ago, it struck me when I was carrying a placard of a male victim of domestic violence, and at other times a pro-life one, 9 times out of 10 it would be a woman coming up to me saying, "Yep, thank you for this." And if you think about it, every pro-life woman is basically saying, "Take women's rights away," because when they have these rights, you get 73 million unborn children. I just like to wrap up, Paul. I mean, I really appreciate so much of your time. It's very generous. Fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. So affects, as I say, it's believed to affect about 1 in 6 British children. But I think British people tend to be heavier drinkers than Americans, and I think British women in particular. I think the divide is bigger among British women and American women. And we had a really extraordinary example of a gender double standard here. I mean, recently there was a case of 21-year-old black British guy who was convicted of putting sodium valproate in the milk bottle of a baby, and he'd Googled things like how to kill a baby, you know. So and it was his drug he was taking for epilepsy, and anticonvulsive drug. So there's no doubt he had the intent. I guess it's almost, well, no, I mean it's certain he did it. So, but I think the baby passed out, was rushed to A&E and made, by all accounts, a full recovery. Now let's look at the gender divide here. So a woman who drinks three bottles of whiskey a day, or vodka or whatever, for 9 months, delivers a baby with a half-sized brain, who the state will look after for however long he or she is on this planet. She just walks away from the hospital. This man, Paul, 25 years prison sentence.
Sure.
For ineptly, I mean, I suspect mental health issues on his part, quite frankly. But of course, men never have mental health issues, or very rarely, as a defense, whereas it's wheeled out. Just evil, yeah. And so 25 years for doing exactly what a woman would literally not serve a day for. But there we are. And I've got to say, sorry, just wrapping up abortion, Paul.
Sure.
I first mentioned it in Chicago at the 19 conference, and I thought I'd get some kickback, hostility for that, saying, look, there's all these men's and boys issues. What the hell are you talking about this issue for? It's a woman's issue. And I've got to say, in the intervening I got no criticism, much to my surprise. And all the MRAs I speak to are increasingly saying, you know, it's sort of counterintuitive, but to my mind, at least, it is the issue we should be banging the drum about, because it's a cornerstone of feminism.
Absolutely. I mean, that abortion and domestic violence is where feminists make all their revenue.
Yeah.
And listen, my tax dollars are taken and distributed to women for their health issues, for all kinds of things. Abortion is included in this. As long as they're taking money from me and killing children that belong to men who don't have a voice in it, it's a fucking men's issue.
It is. It absolutely is. I mean, quite. I'd say quite apart from the fact that half of the dead are male.
Yes.
But I mean, that's not the important side of well, it is an important side. But okay, Paul, thank you for that fascinating discussion. I'd just like to end with a plug for the conference. Only £20, guys and gals. So it's an absolute steal for 70 hours or 70-hour-long segments of content, including luminaries such as Warren Farrell, yourself, Janice, just so many good people. Tickets are on sale through, well, they're basically on sale. Look, there's links in the blog piece. I'm starting to ramble, Paul. I'm a bit tired post-conference.
Absolutely, links below to everything. Please support the conference. These conferences have become so important, and everybody, Mike and others, have scratched and clawed through COVID mandates and all kinds of other insanity to get the conferences online when we couldn't do them in person. This takes a phenomenal amount of work. And you can sign up for £20 and, like you said, get 70 hours of great content from many different speakers across the board. It is a steal, and it's important to keep supporting. We need these conferences to continue and to grow. It's been going since 2014 now. I would like to see it go to 2040. I
agree. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to carry on doing them as long as I'm able, you know. And so the tickets are on sale up to the 30th of January. And the videos, those videos will be available until the end of June. Sorry, 13th of June. So it takes some time to wade through 70 interviews and presentations. I don't expect people to do it, you know, in a week. But the content is just stellar. The quality is, you know, just amazing. And with that, finally, Paul, thank you for letting me ramble and interrupt.
Absolutely happy to do it.
I always do. I always interrupt for a second, then I'm still speaking 5 minutes later. It is what it is, I'm afraid. Paul, thank you again for agreeing to this. And
sure. Sure, and happy holidays to everybody. Hope you had a great Christmas, a great New Year,
Yeah.
Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. I don't care. Just I hope you had fun.
And our best wishes for 2022. I think the men's rights movement is in a really exciting place right now, and we are getting traction. It's only going to improve from here, guys.
Good enough. Everybody
enough.
take care.
It's
Bye-bye.
a wrap. Thanks, Paul.